Alright guys, we're talking about head turners today. What are head turners? Well, it's the fragrance you're wearing and you walk past someone and they turn their head and look at you, they catch your eye and they say, "Oh my god, what is that fragrance you're wearing? I love it, it smells so great." So I've got a top 20 list here. We've got new fragrances and the usual suspects that I've spoken about that I still call or consider head turners. Find out what they are coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today I'm talking about head turners. These are the fragrances that get compliments, that get people asking you what you're wearing and things like that. And you know what? It's funny. For me, a lot of the fragrances are fragrances I speak about, but recently I've been testing out some fragrances from last year to this year, and there are a bunch of new fragrances that I've actually been asked what I'm wearing, so I'm going to include those at the top of the list. But there's some new stuff here that I consider really great, and they do get compliments and they do get people asking what I'm wearing and things like that, and it's always nice to be asked what I'm wearing. And honestly though, for me, I pile on my fragrances, so I don't know how minimally you guys wear. If you don't ever get compliments, it's probably because people are not smelling them off of you. And I'm downtown San Francisco, and whenever I leave the studio, I'm constantly spritzing myself with fragrances, and I don't just do one or two, I do a lot. And I go into my elevator, and in the elevator, outside of the elevator, and on my way to various places, I get asked what I'm wearing. So let's go ahead and get started with the list. But before I do though, let me know what fragrances you consider head turners, and let me know which fragrances you guys get compliments from. But the first fragrance we're going to talk about is the newest one in my collection. I've just been testing it out. And I'm not the biggest fan of this house, but somehow I'm actually starting to appreciate their fragrances. Because I think what happened with this house was something happened and they reformulated a lot of their fragrances. But I feel like now they're kind of consistent and we're back on track. Whereas they took a lot of their old fragrances, reformulated them, discontinued them and things like that, and I wasn't really digging what they did, but now they're on track, and this fragrance is actually getting people to ask me what I'm wearing. I'm talking about the latest from Clive Christian. This is called Town and Country, and boy, it is a powerful fragrance, robust, intense, with a big cloud and sillage, and a great trail. And this is what is actually getting people to turn their heads and ask me what I'm wearing. So Town and Country features notes of cedarwood, patchouli, tea, ambergris, cashmere, olibanum, juniper, cardamom, sandalwood, clary, sage. It is a fantastic fragrance, but it does remind me a little bit of other fragrances. Mostly for me, it reminds me of something like Oud for Greatness from the house of Initio Parfums. But this is, to me, Oud for Greatness is a great scent. It's not as robust as this. This is pretty potent stuff. And this is what really generates, people's reactions and things like that, and they ask you what I'm wearing and things like that. So in the end, it doesn't have a lot of sweetness. It has a lot of aromatics, and also it has woods and musks. It's very musky and things like that, and it does have a big cloud. I'm not saying this is a fragrance like Followed by Kerosene, which to me is one of the most potent fragrances ever, but this is pretty potent. It has great longevity, great sillage, great trail, great projection, and things like that. And those are the kind of fragrances that are going to get people turning their heads and asking you what you're wearing. So Town and Country from the house of Clive Christian is the first fragrance I'm talking about. The next fragrance I'm talking about is a fragrance I recently featured in my Athena fragrances video. Compliments galore. I don't know what it is about this fragrance, but I get compliments from people. And for me, as I was saying, I spritz on my stuff, go down the hall in the studio building, go down the elevator, and I frequent a restaurant, and every single waiter, waitress there asks me what I'm wearing. I don't know what it is about that restaurant, but the waiters and waitresses are constantly asking me, and they seem to be really into fragrances. And this one was one of the fragrances that I've recently been asked twice what I've been wearing. This is Athena's ABHA, this one right here. So ABHA is, if you caught my video on ATHENA fragrances, this was left in the bonus section. It's a dupe of The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by Raja Parfums. That was one of my favorite fragrances, and it came and went really quickly. This is a great dupe of it, or an alternative for it, because it smells almost identical. And obviously, it smells great enough to, garner compliments. It's an oudy fragrance. It has leather, but there's also musk, strawberries, cotton candy, banana, cinnamons, raspberry, plum, apple, vanilla, cacao, blackcurrant, rose de mai, balsam fir. There's a lot going on here, and it's this whole combination of notes that creates and garners compliments. It's aromatics, it's woods, it's musks, it's flowers, it's fruits, candy, sweet and savory, woody, musky, so delicious. And this is actually a budget fragrance that smells very expensive. So ATHENA's ABHA is the second fragrance I'm talking about. Let me know if you know that fragrance or the first one I was discussing. And this is another one that I've actually garnered compliments from as well. But this stuff was recently featured in my BLEU, niche BLEU fragrances video. You do have to pile this stuff on. This is kind of a fragrance that I would wear when it's warm outside. And even though when you look at the notes, it acts, or you think it's going to act very deep, rich, heavy, intense, because it's got these really heavy, dense, resinous notes. That's not how it acts. For me, it acts a bit minty, fresh, and orange kind of citrusy, eventually developing into kind of a resinous, woody amber fragrance. I'm talking about Fragrance du Bois Oud Bleu Intense. Smells fantastic. And I think this is something that I've figured out that I do quite frequently. I stopped wearing my hat more frequently, and obviously you've been seeing that I've been doing reviews without my hat on ever since I've gotten sick with flu and allergies and then bronchitis and things like that. I've been spraying my hair with fragrance, and with the pomade I use in my hair, the fragrance clings on, and this is what really I think is doing a lot of my head turning from other people or compliment getting and things like that. Because when you spray your fragrance on your hair with the product on, it's going to stay there forever. And when your body temp heats up a little bit, you're walking around, you're moving around, and it's going to start, projecting off of your hair. And that's what this one does. Oud Bleu Intense is such a unique fragrance and such a beautiful fragrance. Again, I pile it on. This is a kind of fragrance that you need to pile on in order for people to actually smell you. And when they do, they're going to react positively to this one. This I would consider a crowd pleaser. Again, the notes are so off. I'm not even going to read the notes to you, but it's a fantastic fragrance and perfect to wear in the heat. So Oud Bleu Intense from the house of Fragrance du Bois. Check it out. If you don't know that one, I highly recommend it. Keep in mind, it is kind of a ethereal, kind of airy fragrance. You're going to need a lot of sprays of that one, but once you do, it's so fantastic. The next fragrance I'm talking about, this is the first time I'm talking about a SOSPIRO fragrance. It's Dolce Melodia, this one right here. Can we focus? There we go. So Dolce Melodia is so good. In fact, I don't know why, but I did not feature this in my solar fragrances video. It definitely belongs in that list, but it was fairly new when I shot that video. I can now go back in time and put it in that video. But this is super delicious. It's a floral fragrance for one, lots of white flowers, and there's actually kind of a beachy solar effect in here with some sweetness. So delicious, really loud, big fragrance, longevity to the max. It lingers on for a long time. And it garners the compliments, and people ask me, they turn their head and say, what fragrance are you wearing? So it's Gardenia with sandalwood, mandarin. There's pear, vanilla, white musk, orange, saffron, blackcurrant, jasmine, and rose. And for me, it's all of this stuff. Plus, it kind of has a Middle Eastern style backbone in the fragrance itself. And all of these musky kind of woody notes against the white flowers, the fruits, and the citrus notes and the vanillic notes creates for a really wonderful reaction, very positive from people. So it's Dolce Melodia from SOSPIRO, a great fragrance. People wonder what I'm wearing when I wear that stuff. Stay tuned for a video on SOSPIRO fragrances sometime in the next couple of weeks. But that is definitely a really, really great fragrance. Really love wearing it. And I love the fact that it, gets people's heads turning, garners compliments, and lingers on for a long time. Up next, we've got sort of a blue fragrance in that it's a crowd pleaser, but more of a salty, marine, fruity fragrance. Going to the house of LOUMARI, this is PORTHOLE, this one right here. Porthole is so good. If you like fragrances like Aventus, but more going into a marine direction, salty direction, you've got to check this one out. It's pineapple with bergamot, salt and ginger, passion fruit and white flowers. It's super delicious. It's marine, that it's not a typical marine, it's more salty. And the fact that it has the pineapple in there and the passion fruit and all the salt in here tones it down. And it smells super fantastic and perfect in the heat. And once again, this stuff sprayed on my hair. The trail is really, really amazing. It's a crowd pleaser. When people smell it off of you, they really, really love it. And it's the kind of fragrance that I highly recommend, and perfect to wear in the heat as well. If you're looking for a new salty, marine, fruity, citrus fragrance for the summertime, LOUMARI's Porthole is really, really solid. Check it out. In fact, if you don't know that brand, I have some videos on the channel. Just do a search for LOUMARI. And if you caught my Scent Club kit number 2, I did feature one of their fragrances, Almeria, in Scent Club kit number 2 when I first started doing the Scent Club kits. Moving on to another newish house on the channel, although I've spoken about them as well. We're going to a house called ORENS Parfums, and this is CALLIS Subtile, or Subtle, what I should say. Can we get that focus right there? So this is a very unique kind of a bottle. It's a kind of like a lightsaber, but it's a 50 ml in here, and it comes with a refill as well in the box. And you basically undo the bottom and take out the glass and put your other 50 ml in here. But with this fragrance, it's very, very sexy. It's a floral fragrance in the end. It's got muskiness as well. And once again, really great trail and longevity. What I like about this one is the muskiness. It's the muskiness with the flowers and also the sugary touches, amber and the moss in here and the musk. And I feel like there's a little bit of saffron in here as well, with a light ambroxan kind of a thing happening. Perhaps a light reminder of something like Baccarat Rouge. But this stuff is super fantastic. Smells great. People react very, very positively to it. People ask me what I'm wearing and things like that. And then also, it smells fantastic. I really love the way it smells. The combination of the notes really, really is fantastic for this one. So this is CALLIS Subtile from the house of ORENS Parfums. And that is a great, great release. So that's the list of some of the newer fragrances that I've been testing out and getting very positive reactions, and people asking me what I'm wearing and things like that. Now we're going to most of the stuff from last year and on. This next one's from the house of Maison CRIVELLI. This is Patchouli Magnetic, this one right here. This is an acquired taste, okay? Most people really love the Hibiscus Mahajat. I don't like that stuff at all. Patchouli Magnetic, on the other hand, it is super, super beast mode. It has such great lingering power and very, very positive reactions from people when I'm, moving around and things like that. And my cloud, the fragrance cloud is, being left behind. And people go, what are you wearing? It smells so good, and things like that. If you like the idea of the beast mode potency of this one, check it out. But it is lots of patchouli with gardenia, sandalwood, benzoin, white peach, vanilla, and leather. Light fruitiness, overdose of white flowers, very creamy, cozy, and an earthy patchouli creates for a really intoxicating smell. So it's Patchouli Magnetic from the house of Maison CRIVELLI. That's an extrait de parfum, by the way. So really super potent, very long lasting. But moving on to the house of AKRO with ink, this one right here. Go figure. I don't get compliments from Smoke, Dark, or Awake, but this one garners me compliments. I am so shocked. And the thing with this one is it's an odd fragrance, so be warned. I'm warning you with this one. If you're not into odd smelling fragrances, don't get this one. It's a vetiver fragrance that's very dark, leathery, rubbery, inky. It's inspired by tattooing, and it's called ink, but it smells great, and people say what I'm wearing. The thing is, it sounds like it's going to be a very dense fragrance, but there's something about it. It's not super dense and heavy when you're wearing it. And with the heat outside, it creates for a big cloud and a trail, and people stop me, ask me what I'm wearing. It's that kind of a fragrance, but it's vetiver with birch, jasmine, and black ink. So the notes are not too many. It's mostly vetiver, but of course, the notes in here creates for kind of a rubbery, leathery, smoky experience. So AKRO ink what a great fragrance this is, especially for people to ask what I'm wearing and things like that. But moving on to an old staple that garners me lots of compliments and gets people asking me what I'm wearing. This is MONTALE's Intense Cafe. Still a compliment getter for me. Still people turn their heads and ask me what I'm wearing. A lot of ladies really love this stuff, and they really, I mention what I'm wearing, I show them a photo, they take a snapshot with their phone off my phone, and then, they end up getting a bottle. But it's a very lactonic, milky rose fragrance with, of course, rose, and there's vanilla, coffee, musk, and floral notes with amber. And the coffee is not super amped up. It's a light latte experience. Just think of a rose latte. Beautiful, delicious fragrance. It's Intense Cafe from the house of MONTALE. And then, of course, this one always gets me compliments. This is a Portrait of a Lady from the house of Frederic Malle. People always turn their heads and say, what are you wearing? Wonderful, wonderful fragrance. I know, though, it's gotten a bit butchered and watered down because, it's now under Estee Lauder. It's not what it used to be. But the smell is still really, really, really great. And you might have to pile on more sprays of this stuff. It's not as deep and rich as it used to be. But it's a super fantastic rosy, patchouli, incense, spicy, ambery, fruity fragrance that's super, super amazing. So Portrait of a Lady from the house of Frederic Malle. Great, great fragrance. Check it out if you don't know it. I'm sure you guys know, though, because I speak about that one so frequently. And then this fragrance, of course, it's a staple for me, and I'm going to mention it here, but I might stop talking about this one. Recently, I found and I heard that this might actually be officially discontinued. I'm talking about Dior Homme Parfum, this one right here. This one really gets me compliments. One time, I wore it, and I went down the elevator, was talking to someone downstairs in the lobby, and this woman comes down in the same elevator, says, "Who's wearing that perfume? That stuff smells amazing." And I said, "It's me." So I had to talk to her and tell her what it is I'm wearing. And I said, it's really difficult to get, but it's super delicious. And this is a really, really great fragrance with iris, sandalwood, leather, ambrette, agarwood, cedar, rose, oranges. Super amazing fragrance. If you can get yourself a bottle, get it, because the rumor is it is officially discontinued. Anyway, Dior Homme Parfum definitely gets heads turning with that one. Moving on to the house of Marc-Antoine Barrois. This is Ganymede. This is another fragrance that garners me compliments. People ask me what I'm wearing, and it is kind of almost in the level of Baccarat Rouge. Not quite, but it's got that kind of a following. I think it's more of the indie version of Baccarat Rouge, in case if we want to compare, but kind of similar muskiness and dry kind of immortelle minerally touches and leather touches with this one. It's mandarin orange, saffron, violet, osmanthus, akigala wood, immortelle, and a few other notes. But to me, there's a fruitiness here. It's definitely dry, and the immortelle kind of creates that kind of dry effect, minerally effect. Violet leaves creates the fruitiness in here, almost like green apples and things like that. It's super delicious. But either way, this is Marc-Antoine Barrois, Ganymede. If you're a fan of that one, do let me know. Put a comment down. And this is definitely major, major head turner. This is Nishane's Hachivat. It's a crowd pleaser as well. People really love that, the way it smells on. And it's a very kind of screechy fragrance, really dry. But there's fruity elements here, some syrupy elements as well. But it does come off a bit screechy and metallic with all the woods together. But it's pineapple with grapefruit. There's oak moss. There's bergamot. And then, of course, patchouli. It's considered somewhat of a cheaper fragrance, but very modern. And it smells super fantastic with great, great longevity. So this is Hachivat from the house of Nishane. Definitely a head turner. But, of course, I'm going to bring this one up as well, because this one always gets people talking about it. This is Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Baccarat Rouge 540 in the Extrait de Parfum concentration. And once again, this was not a love at first sniff. There are fragrances that I don't like when I first smell them sometimes. But I think with the fact that there's a lot of people wearing this one, and also every time I visited Neiman Marcus, the whole MFK department smelled of this. This was like in the 2016, 2017, 2018. And by the time 2019 rolled around, I became a big fan of it, and I really love it. And yes, it's got a great trail. That's what's important to create, garner compliments. If your fragrance is not going to leave a trail, if it's not going to have projection, you're not going to get compliments. This is definitely a sillage monster, I would say. Definitely great great trail, great longevity, great projection, and things like that. And those are the fragrances that are going to get you compliments. Anyway, this is Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. Wonderful fragrance, definitely a head turner for me. This next one is a bit subdued, but I overspray it, and I think it has this really weird effect that I get nose blind to it, and I can hardly smell it off of me. I can smell it, but sometimes I go nose blind, and other people smell it off of me, and they react so positively to it. It's another crowd pleaser. Going to the house of Le Labo, it's another 13. I just wear this stuff really liberally. Like, it is that kind of a fragrance, so you need to spritz on a lot. It is a super sexy fragrance with lots of musks. There's ambroxan, there's ISOE super, there's other notes like oak moss and ambrette, jasmine, citruses, and fruity notes. But it's super fantastic. If you want compliments, definitely try this one. And I think you're gonna definitely need to overspray it to garner the compliments, but once people smell it off of you, because there's this super sexy muskiness about it, and once it touches your own body chemistry, you'll project off this really, really sexy aroma, and people will really be all over you. So it's another 13 from the house of Le Labo. Check it out if you don't know it. And then this fragrance from the house of Maison Cyr is my alternative to Baccarat Rouge. Kind of sort of similar, kind of sort of not. This is For Your Love from the house of Maison Cyr. Once again, spray it in your head. If you wear pomade, if you style your hair, that smell is going to stay there. And when there's some warmth, it's going to project off of you, and you're going to get the positive reactions. And this is super sexy, musky. Again, as I said, it's kind of like an alternative to Baccarat Rouge. It's got Exaltome, which is musk, Cachalox, which is Ambergris, Ambrox, raspberry, benzoin, and patchouli. So there's some sweetness, some earthiness, some fruitiness in addition to all the musky notes. For Your Love is super amazing. I absolutely love it. And I love wearing it because it just makes me feel happy when I wear things like this that are musky and sexy at the same time. And then this next one is also a staple. I love wearing it in the heat. Going to the house of Mancera, Hindu Kush. Hindu Kush for me comes alive in the heat. It sounds like it's more of a winter fragrance, but for me, the creamy gaiac in here, the gaiac wood, it just totally amplifies with all the different notes like the spices, the incense, and the cannabis, and creates for a really wonderful, sexy trail. And this is what I like about this one, wearing it in the warmth, and that's when people are going to react really positively to it. I know there's haters of this fragrance. I don't know why, because there's nothing really bad about it. It just smells really, really great, especially when it comes down to wearing it in the heat. If you don't know this one, do check it out. Test it out in the summer heat and let me know what you think. If you're very sensitive to very strong fragrances, though, I would stay away from doing that. But if you are into the idea of wearing intense fragrances, try it in the heat. I think it totally opens up. This next one also, this is Tiziana Terenzi's Ursa. I've been a big fan of this. I mean, I was first a big fan of Straight to Heaven, but I always felt like it needed oomping up because it's so weak to me. You know, even the intense or the extreme was pretty weak. This is more than the intense or extreme from Straight to Heaven, and I love it because it's just very, very beefy. And it's a bit leathery, so it's a bit animalic too. Once you get past that, you get the whole Straight to Heaven effect with the dried fruits, the patchouli, the rum, the elemi resin, the tobacco, the vanilla, and all of that stuff. It totally comes alive in the heat again. This might be a bit more potent than the Mancera Hindu Kush, so be warned about that. But if you can, wear something like that in the heat, I think this smells fantastic. The fruitiness and the booziness and also the vanillic touches with the patchouli is where it's at with this one. So Tiziana Terenzi's Ursa, a really great head turner. Really love that stuff. The next one, going to the house of Thomas de Monaco. This is Raw Gold, this one right here. I've spoken quite a bit about this one, and I think it's definitely one that people talk about when I'm wearing it. It has really beefy longevity. It's really, really intense, and also really super sexy with all the notes. It's coffee, it's a boozy notes, it's patchouli, it's a popanax, it's honey. Really wonderful combination of notes. It's a bit old school, it's a bit modern at the same time, and really, really great longevity. Really love wearing it, and definitely get people talking about it. So it's Raw Gold from the house of Thomas de Monaco. Check that out. It was recently featured in a Scent Club kit number 4. And I'm going to end the list here with this freshie from the house of Xerjoff. This is Torino 21. This, for a freshie, has great lingering power. For me, it's also very, very cozy. It's a verbena, kind of a lemon mint tea experience. There's no tea mentioned in here, but I feel like when I wear it, I'm kind of like drizzling myself with the lemon mint tea. You know, I don't know why that is with this one. But for a freshie, it has great longevity. It's a crowd pleaser. People really love the way it smells on me, and they'll react very, very positively and ask me what I'm wearing. Really, really great stuff. I really love it more than Torino 22. Torino 21 is one of the best freshies out there for me. I absolutely love it, and definitely a great head turner here. So it's Torino 21 from the house of Xerjoff, and that is the last fragrance for you guys today with this top 20 list of head turners. Let me know what fragrances are head turners for you, what gets you compliments, and have you tried these fragrances? Are you curious to try them now? I'd like to find out. Put a comment down below. But either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. Always love giving you guys some bonuses, but during my last trip to Europe, I took these two fragrances and I was wearing them together layered. So I'm talking about Maison Crivelli's Ingredients 07 2012, and I was layering it with a Molecule 1 plus Gaiac Wood. Remember, when I did my video of the 3 new Eccentric Molecules fragrances, which is ginger, black tea, and Gaiac Wood, Gaiac Wood was not my favorite. And once again, I didn't like it at first. Now I'm absolutely obsessed with the way it smells. Really love it. So Ingredients is a fragrance that has not published the notes. So basically you have to kind of figure out what the notes are. But for me, I get saffron with some dry woody touches, light fruity touches, ambery touches, and leather. And then of course, Eccentric Molecules Molecule 1 plus Gaiac Wood is basically ISO E Super along with Gaiac Wood. But the two together, wow, it's explosive combo. And definitely head turners from people. People really stopped me on the streets in Europe and asked me what I was wearing. Really, really great fragrance combination. The two together on their own are fine, totally fine. But when they were layered together, it totally made an explosive combination. The only problem with Ingredients 2012 is that it's a very limited release. You can only buy it from the Maison Crivelli website, or you can buy it in a store called Ingredients in Prague, because it was made for that store. But if you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend it. And of course, with the Gaiac Wood ISOE Super combo, that's everywhere. I really recommend Eccentric Molecules fragrances. They're really, really great fragrances to wear on their own minimally, or to use as a booster or, intensifier for other fragrances. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today. Have a good one. Goodbye.